Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever time it is. Welcome to the secrets of a ghostwriter. Today, word count. How important is your word count, and what are the general guidelines for a book? We are in how long is a piece of string territory. So I'll tell you the guidelines that I've worked to, and these came originally from my first publisher. So if you were writing a memoir, I was always advised 80 to 90,000 words. 90,000 words, standard UK size, is probably coming in about 300, 320 pages. I can remember at school being asked to write essays in the sixth form, and the guidelines would be do a side and a half of A4, and being horrified that I just didn't have that knowledge. Now, 80,000 words, no problem. If I'm ghostwriting a memoir for a client, to give myself some breathing space, I will normally advise you're looking at between 65 and 95,000, but I'm always aiming for around 80,000. The most I've ever written in a memoir was 127,000. I'm still quite unsure as to how that happened, but when you're flying, you're flying. What about word count on a daily basis? Should you create that pressure? Should you be impressed or stressed by what you know other writers can deliver? I famously got into a spat, was famous in my mind, with somebody who wrote on Twitter, X, no writer worth their salt would write more than 500 words a day. And everyone at their own pace, but I fell off my chair laughing because I can write 500 words just getting started in about 20 minutes. Now, I'm not saying they're great words, but if you are throwing hours at this, and indeed if it is your job, that struck me as quite a small amount. Where word count does become important to me is that I use it as a guideline mentally through the story. I take great pleasure when it says 000 words, of getting that process going. I limp a little bit towards 10,000, and I think, okay, there's still a long way to go here. And if I'm writing particularly with good momentum, I'll soon get from 10 to 20, and I will say, yeah, this is going well. You're making really good progress. And once I get to about 50,000, I see it as getting to the top of the mountain, turning around and skiing back down. I think I'm on the home run, even though there's 30,000 words to go. So I do use it with little sort of bookmarks along the way as something that helps me mentally. Equally, of course, if there are days where you get interrupted and it's just not happening, I'm mortified if I have only written 500 words. What is a good annual total for the amount of words that you should write? Well, the answer to that is, of course, there isn't one, because it's the quality of the words that count. And if you look at prolific authors, it's rare for them to have anything out more than once a year. And some of that will be driven by their skill and their schedules, and they'll often have fingers in many pies. But some of that, of course, is driven by marketing. And, for every really good book in a publishing house, it might prop up a few less good books. But all roads lead to Christmas. All roads lead to Christmas. So that's the time to sell. Don't put 2 books out at Christmas. Put 1 book out 2 consecutive Christmases. I'm a firm believer that when you think the book is at the end and a publisher or an agent might take it on, allowing yourself a moment's respite, you should always be ahead. You should be cracking on. Now, obviously, as a ghostwriter, it's slightly different to writing fiction or being on a contract and deadlines with a publisher. As I conclude one ghostwriting job, it means I will probably move on to the next, which means I can run multiple projects at the same time. It also increases the amount of words that I would write a year. I did some maths the other day, and I figured that even though there have been days where I've gone crazy and written 10,000 words, rare, there's been about 3 of them. There have been many days when I have written 5,000 or 6,000 words. Generally, I'm writing 2,500 words without really breaking sweat, but without busting a gut to go into the next level. So I totted it up and I thought, well, if I do 2,500 words a day, 5 days a week, 46 weeks a year, I can't remember what the exact figure was, but it was 600,000 or 700,000. If we go back to the original point about how many words is a book, and it's 80,000, you're looking there as a ghostwriter at potentially delivering 6 or 7 books a year, which sounds crazy. It sounds absolutely mad. But it can be done with focus. And it's probably easier to do that as a ghostwriter than it is a writer of fiction, because you're not putting everything into a specific project. You're putting everything into someone's project, and then someone else's project comes along and you begin the process again. And your source of content is richer and more widespread because of the multiple projects that are on offer. So use word count as a little piece of positive motivation. Don't get hung up on what anyone else is doing, and don't be surprised how much you actually can achieve if you graft a little and set yourself realistic deadlines. I hope that helps, and I'll see you next time when the Secrets of a Ghostwriter continues.